Today, we are going to review 2 Jane or John Doe cases, go over the details and any clues or theories that investigators may have. Before we get into all of that, however, I did want to say a few quick things. If you are only here for the true crime element of this channel, I completely understand. As always, I've left timestamps in the description of this video, so you'll be able to skip ahead to the cases. For those of you who stayed, I just wanted to say thank you. On March 7th, I hit 100 subscribers. I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but I really do feel like my growth was quick given when I started my channel, especially given that I upload rather inconsistently. I really appreciate the kindness that you all have shown me in the comments and in simply supporting my work. I haven't seen a single mean comment since checking my YouTube channel, and in fact, I've been getting lots of helpful tips, comments, ideas. A lot of great dialogue has been started in my comments, which was exactly what I was hoping from this channel. I wanted us to be able to come together as a community and remember these children. I am incredibly passionate about missing children's cases, as you might have gathered by the fact that I created a whole channel surrounding missing children. However, that passion would have died without all of you. I wouldn't have the time or the passion to put into the research that it takes to create these videos. But now that I know that there's an audience out there who is similarly passionate about these cases, it pushes me to work even harder, to spend even more time on these cases. I know that I upload very infrequently, especially compared to most YouTube channels, but this is because I have a lot of responsibilities outside of this platform, and I really do appreciate everyone understanding that and continuing to subscribe to my channel and support my videos, even though I can only come by every few months to drop a new video. I've got 2 more things before we dive into the cases. One, I am starting to use a new recording device. I'm using a microphone app on my phone, which is not exactly the fanciest, but I did want to try to improve my audio quality. For now, hopefully the sound quality will be improving a little bit. And the second thing is that, as you may have noticed by the cadence of my speech and any vocal fillers that I have not been able to edit out, I have not scripted this portion of the video, nor will any of the rest of the video be scripted. As you are most likely able to tell from my past videos, I heavily script my content. I put a few hours into researching the cases, I then spend time compiling that into a script, and I then record the script until it's just perfect. This was a lot of work, obviously, and while I loved the research part of it, the writing of the script and then the reciting of the script was not something I was passionate or excited about, and it actually somewhat dulled my passion for this channel. To kind of counteract this, what I'm going to try for the next few uploads is to present the information unscripted. I'm going to continue to contribute as much time as possible towards the research of these cases, but I simply won't be scripting out everything I'm saying. So I have rambled on for long enough. Thank you for everyone who stuck around to listen to this, and even if you didn't, I know you're not here hearing this now, but I really do appreciate you, every single one of you. Now, let's get into these cases. NAMUS UP680 is a full skeleton that was recovered, and we actually know a little bit about her, or more specifically, how she died, who killed her, all of that. We just don't know who she is. So I'm going to be calling her Bones 20 or Bones throughout this part of the video, since that is the identifying nickname she has been given. So Bones 20 is one of 4 unidentified victims of the Green River serial killer, Gary Ridgway. I've touched on them before in other videos. I can't remember specifically if I've talked about Bones 20 yet, but I know that I haven't given her full story. I just know that I would have talked about her in the context of another missing child. Unfortunately, we still do not know her identity, although we do, as I said, know that she was killed by Gary Ridgway. He admitted to her murder and said that he killed her after picking her up somewhere on the Pacific Highway South and bringing her to his home. He believed at the time she was 16 to 20 years old.
although there are other age estimates that forensic scientists made that put this victim anywhere from 13 to 30 years old. Personally, I'm a little more inclined to believe that she was in the 16 to 20-year-old range unless she looked old or young for her age, because Gary Ridgway is, as of now, the only confirmed person to see her alive. And the age estimate coming from forensic scientists is based off of very old bone fragments. So she was probably in her late teens, maybe early 20s. She was probably an older teenager. Bones' body was dumped 10 to 30 years before Ridgway's arrest and confessions, although one King County investigator claimed that the remains were probably there more towards the 30-year end of that estimation, so they had been there for a really long time by the time they were finally discovered, and Ridgway himself thinks he killed her around 1982 or 83. This is just very unbelievable to me, not in that I don't think it happened, but it's just insane that it ever did, because we have a man who remembers this woman. He remembers picking her up. He remembers murdering her. He remembers taking her life. And he can't even remember what year he killed her. And he can't even remember what year he ended her life in. She was an old teenager by most accounts, by the estimates that we have. It's disgusting to me that we just don't know anything else about her, and he couldn't even have been bothered to hang on to what year she was killed. So the best we've got is early 80s, although if she was out there for a few decades, it could have been in the 70s. So before I get too much ahead of myself talking about her age, Gary Ridgway's crimes, all that sort of stuff, I'm going to talk a little bit about when and where she was discovered and what we've been able to gather from her DNA from her corpse. So Bones 20 was discovered on August 21st, 2003 in King County, Washington. Like I said, Ridgway admitted to murdering her. He told investigators where to find her, all of that disgusting stuff. Fortunately, they were able to get dental information and charting from her body and DNA. However, very few bones were found, which is making the investigation incredibly difficult. She was either Caucasian or of mixed race, had a thin to medium build, and had shoulder-length light brown hair. There weren't really any other identifying features. I'm assuming that description was given from Gary Ridgway himself, because since there were very few bones found, I am guessing that they did not find any skin or hair or anything like that that would tell them the race of the woman or her hair color. And based on Gary Ridgway's description, she had no other identifying features, no scars, birthmarks, nothing very noticeable on her face, arms, or any of the easily noticeable skin. So, like I said, her age estimate puts her anywhere from 13 to 30 years old, although the commonly accepted age range that I've seen on a few different sites now is that she was 16 to 26 years old. If she was on the higher end of the spectrum, based on when Ridgway said that he killed her, she would probably be Ridgway's first victim. If she is identified, investigators could finally and definitively solidify their timeline on the Green River Killer. If she was killed in the 70s, that would throw Gary Ridgway's entire interview, his statements to police, everything into question. Obviously, we know he murdered people. He admitted to that. He was sentenced accordingly. However, his plea deal, part of his bargain, his agreement with police, was that in return for not getting the death sentence, in return for only being tried for a life sentence, he would admit to every single murder that he committed. That's why we have 4 unnamed victims. That's why we have 4 unidentified bodies, because he remembered murdering them and he straight out admitted to it, to make sure that they would never be discovered and linked back to him. Because if any other bodies or murders are linked to him that were not previously known to police that he did not admit to, then he could be put back on trial, this time for the death penalty. So it probably wouldn't change anything if she was murdered in the 70s, but as of right now, investigators don't believe that Ridgway was murdering in the 70s, so if she was killed in the 70s, it could suggest that other missing persons cases and murders that took place in the 70s could also be attributed to Ridgway. It could open some doors, it could not. We really just need to know who this woman is, who, when she went missing, who knows her, how old she was. We need this woman's story to potentially help other women, or at the very least put this poor girl to rest. Now, unfortunately, that is really all the information police have been able to get on this woman. No one's come forward. There have been lots of online suggestions as to who she might be, but as of right now, nothing is definitive, or she wouldn't be in this video. As of March 5th, 2021, so actually just a few days ago, as of when I'm filming this, about 6 days ago, Bones' DNA was sent to the lab for testing by the DNA Doe Project, which I'm going to go off on a little tangent here because I think this group is amazing. The DNA Doe Project is a group that goes to independent laboratories and bioinformation experts to generate data that is similar to the data that you would get through direct-to-consumer genetics companies. Places like Ancestry, they go to laboratories, slightly more official routes, and then in return, they're given generated data that looks very similar to that you would get through Ancestry. They then take this data, the DNA Doe Project takes the data they get from these laboratories and experts and upload the files to gedmatch.com, which many people use to find their relatives and track their lineage. And it has been successfully used to solve cold cases, as well as link people with their surviving relatives, their birth families. It's a really, really cool service. If they aren't able to find any matches through that website, they should be able to, at the very least, get a racial or ethnic background on the person, so they should be able to figure out definitively what area of the world this Jane Doe is from. So either way, that will be super cool, but as I said, it was only sent off for testing about 6 days ago, so we're probably not going to be hearing anything about that for quite a long while, especially since the DNA Doe Project is a nonprofit run pretty much completely by volunteers.
This case has not been given a nickname because, frankly, there wasn't enough of a person to merit a nickname. This was a single left foot that was discovered on September 21st, 1999, and no other part of the body has been found since. The foot was found in the Spokane River in Spokane County, Washington, close to the 9 Miles Falls Dam, in approximately 6 feet of water 10 feet from the shore. The foot was discovered by an underwater diver who had been swimming in the area. It must have been horrifying to find a human foot, but luckily, police are now aware that somebody out there is missing a foot. When the diver found the foot, it was contained in a partially adhered, tattered, dark sock. It was slowly coming off the bones. There were holes in the sock, which were most likely made from feeding fish, but depending on how long the foot was there, I could see it easily just being the usual wear and tear that things in a river face. The foot measured 8 inches from large toe to heel, and investigators were able to determine that it had belonged to an adult over the age of 18. Unfortunately, because of the lack of information surrounding the foot's discovery and the foot itself, investigators were unable to figure out any other information about it. The skeleton in the sock is intact, but it seemed to have disconnected at the base of the ankle. Based on the way the bone emerges from the ankle, forensic scientists believe that the foot was dislodged from the body after the body had died, in what is known as a post-mortem abrasion. This was probably due to the difficult climate of the moving river and the deterioration of the corpse. This would also explain why there are missing toe bones on the foot. There are 3 incomplete toes. They're the last 3 toes on the foot, and while most of the bones are still there, they are missing bone bits and fragments. The foot, like I said, seems to have dislodged naturally, and that would also explain the missing bones because those would also have dislodged naturally over the course of the body being in the river. However, that still leaves the question, where is the body that this foot belongs to, and how did they meet their end? Why did they end up in the Spokane River, and why haven't we been able to find them? Unfortunately, as I said, the foot does not have any other identifying details. It is entirely skeletal except for, and I might butcher this word, some adipocere, which is a waxy substance that is caused by decomposition in moist environments. Anyone familiar with Washington State will know that it is a moist environment, not to mention that the foot was literally 6 feet in a river. A small black bead was also found on the foot. You can see it in the forensics pictures posted on NAMUS. I can't tell what it is or where it was on the foot, and no sources seem to mention it. So for all I know, this wasn't actually on the foot when they found it. I'm a little confused as to the context of that bead. So if you have any ideas of what that could be, please let me know.
This foot is potentially female, but is currently classified as male, but that's realistically just because the databases that host this information had to mark the foot as either gender, and they just went with male, but it could be female as well. And other than that, nothing is known about this. We know that it was an adult. We know that the foot probably detached naturally, and it was found in 1999. That is really all the information on this foot. It raises so many more questions than it answers, and it's a gruesome mental image to think about a corpse in the Spokane River just floating around without its left foot. By this time, it's probably totally broken apart or been eaten, and I would guess the only remnants would be some bones, potentially some clothing. If, through some horrifying turn of events, you find a body missing a left foot, please do contact the numbers in the description below. I know this foot doesn't belong to a child based on current forensic estimates, but because there is so little information about the foot, investigators are currently posting it on any databases they can just to see if anyone knows who this foot belongs to and where that person is now. There was actually going to be a third case that I discussed in this video, but when I started doing research for it, I realized that it has actually been incorrectly labeled. It is a Jane Doe case from New Hampshire and not from Washington State. I really did just want to make a little comeback video to just say thank you for the support that has been shown to my channel recently, despite me being gone for 3 months. I really do appreciate it. Thank you all for being here, and I really did enjoy filming this video. But just give me your feedback in the comments, ideas for this channel, things you'd like to see, that sort of thing. You've heard me ramble for long enough. If you know anything about either of them, contact information for the corresponding counties and departments will be in the description below. As always, please help bring these children home.